Good morning, everyone. These are two keynote speakers that are difficult to follow up, but we'll try and do our best. My name is Mike Balagna. I'm the founder and CEO of Trusted Human Capital, which is a business advisory that helps companies scale, both with human capital and investment capital. But that's not what we're here for. We're here to talk about the future of robotics. And I'm going to start by introducing, I'm going to start with Steve, just because you're first on my list. Steve Tobis is the founder of 251 Ventures, co-founder and head of Jasse Robotics, chief technology officer at TriStar Design. And he's an experienced startup veteran and engineering executive with a master's degree in mechanical engineering from Northeastern University. He's a CTO at TriStar Design, an advanced technology product design firm in Boston that specializes in robotics, medical, and military products. And he played a key role in developing a Symbotic automated warehouse order fulfillment system, and recently co-founded Next Shift Robotics and Jasse Robotics. He runs 251 Ventures, which is a consultancy providing guidance on technical due diligence, product development, design feasibility, market fit, and strategy. Next, I'll introduce Anthony Young, who's the co-founder and CIO of Edendale Capital. Anthony holds an MBA in finance from the University of Texas and a bachelor's and master's degree in electrical engineering from UCLA and USC. He also has the Chartered Alternative Investment Analyst designation and a CFA certificate of ESG investing. He joined Bear Stearns focusing on metals and mining, then joined Dahlman Rose and Company in February of 2008, where he was responsible for uranium, lithium, and other minor metals. Anthony worked as a portfolio manager at Quad Capital, focusing on industrials and basic materials equities, and then joined Macquarie, where he concentrated on US-based small cap industrial and mining equities, and now is the co-founder and CIO of Edendale Capital. Next is Buck Jordan, to my immediate left, who is the co-founder and CEO of Vibu Labs, which is a next-gen corporate innovation venture fund that incubates and scales disruptive technology startups in partnership with the most forward-thinking companies around the world. Over the past 4 years, his team has managed to build Vibu into one of the leading food automation companies globally, regularly partnering with large global brands. Buck is in the process of assembling an exceptionally skilled and extensive robotics team on a global scale, with the aim of revolutionizing the food industry using cutting-edge technologies such as advanced AI, machine learning, and robotics. Finally, we have Dr. Harry Clore, the dual PhD CEO of Beyond Imagination, which is where he's working on robotics, AI, medical stem cells, and has had a lifetime of science and technology. Last April, he received a Lifetime Achievement Award from his graduate school, and with his co-founder, Ray Kurzweil, he's built the AI-powered humanoid robotics company way back in 2018. They've created the world's most sophisticated humanoid robot, Beyond Me AI, which is a revolutionary AI brain that can learn to perform any physical labor. Beyond Me AI is a powerful AI brain that can power humanoid robots and other robotic systems and learn tasks just like the human brain. Yeah. Steve, I'll start with you and open this up to the entire panel, but in what industries are robotics most prevalent right now, and how do you see that changing over the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, so I've been in logistics and warehousing robotics for 15 years, a lot of startups. And so logistics, warehousing, it's huge. In fact, there's only, I heard a figure last week at another conference, 5% of the warehousing operations have been automated, so it's a massive area. Obviously manufacturing, some surgical, but now it's getting into, with the advances in AI, advances in perception, visualization, controls like Dr. was showing, it can get into more fine motor skills. So things like picking strawberries and very delicate tasks. So agriculture is going to be huge. Construction will be huge. In the past 5 years, I've seen a lot of construction robotics start to come on and be accepted by that industry. So, and military, for better or worse, military is going to be an area where it comes in.
Awesome. Anthony, how about you? That same question.
Yeah, I mean, we're starting to see robotics introduced in a number of basic material industries. So in the steel industry, for example, robots are now used to do a lot of the, not necessarily the manufacturing, but the cutting and shaping of steel. So historically, you've had manufacturing environments where, you've had this, Henry Ford invented the line where people stood, and now you're starting to see that all be automated. And what's interesting about that is it changes the form factor. So you're used to seeing bright construction or manufacturing environments, but now they basically wheel in the steel into a dark warehouse, and you just see lasers sort of flying all over the place, and out comes finished products. So I think it's interesting in that it changes a lot, in that we've built things in a certain fashion for the last 120, 130 years, but those form factors will be completely different as we go forward.
Excellent, thank you. Buck, a follow-up question to that is, how big do you think the robotics market is going to be?
I mean, I think it's going to be massive. I mean, in the United States, I focus mostly in the food service industry because it's a place where labor is in critical supply and not going to get any better anytime soon. And just in the United States, there's $175 billion of automatable labor in the restaurant space. So this is pretty staggering. Much less all the other industries that require automation are having labor shortages. So, I think to your previous question, where the robotics going to go first? I think this is just somewhat of a simple equation of what's the ratio of human labor going into the ratio of for the value coming out of whatever that product is, basically I think that it's going to start hitting the application layer of food. I think logistics is pretty much the first one that's really kind of hitting on all cylinders when it comes to robotics. But automation has to enter our everyday lives because the demographics of the world are pretty poor and dire. In the United States, we're one of the most healthy demographics of the advanced developing world. But even us, we're headed for a pretty huge cliff. Like in 2010, we had 4.4 working age adults for every retired adult. In 2060, it's 2.2. But what about Japan? What about China? What about South Korea? What about Europe, excluding France? Everything is headed for this demographic cliff, and you have to ask yourself, who's going to build the buildings? Who's going to work the warehouses? Who's going to make your burgers? And so I think that the world is going to have trouble from an existential standpoint supporting these societies in general, and ultimately, who's going to do the work?
My robots.
Yeah, and just to add to that, Buck, I agree. I'm involved in food tech a bit, but there's this whole problem with the world is going to run out of food, right? If we don't find better ways to make it, not only getting that food to people, but also more efficient ways of growing it, right? So that's a huge, huge industry.
Yeah, in fact, I have one company who wants 1,000 of my robots for grow boxes alone. You can imagine skyscraper farms that are fully automated with a combination of automation and autonomous robots. I mean, from our perspective, it impacts pretty much every job. There's over $45 to $55 trillion in labor that's done with hands, especially if you include the medical field. And that's why we're aiming at disrupting that.
Excellent. To that point, I think it was you, Harry, that mentioned that ChatGPT is the appetizer.
Yeah, we consider ChatGPT to be a good appetizer, like shrimp. But we want to serve you the main course. We want to be able to interact physically, and over time we have a hive mind structure so that each brain learns from the other brain. So imagine employees who get better every day. Imagine employees who can move faster than humans as it grows. And that never quit, that don't need new training. If you need new training, you train one of them and they all know it. And an employee that can be one job in the day, another job in the afternoon, and another job in the evening. You can just move a different expert mind out to the edge.
Excellent. That's a great entry to my next question for you, Steve, is how will AI impact robotics in the future?
Yeah, so I agree, like things like ChatGPT, it's going to make robots a lot easier to interact with, for sure. It's going to shorten the teaching process with ChatGPT and the summarization feature in ChatGPT, if you're familiar with that. But basically, it can take complex commands or a few commands and generalize them into generalized just instructions. And sometimes it gets it right, and sometimes it doesn't, right? But
Yeah, that's why actually those large language models, in the next
Yeah.
6 months, you're going to see a lot of articles come out on small focused models. And that's
Yeah.
what we're doing. Because you don't, look,
There's a
30% of the
limit.
time, it's wildly wrong.
yeah, there's a limit to what they can do, and I think LLMs or large language models are, they will be reaching that limit or have reached that limit, and the work you're doing is going to help that. But there's a lot of room for it to help the existing robots that are out there right now, and a lot more to come. Years ago I spoke with one of my idols, I guess, is Rodney Brooks, one of the fathers or grandfathers of robotics, and a couple years ago he had said, let's get AI to the point where it can emulate a toddler first. And that'll take a good 20 years. You know what I mean? And that's there's exaggerations. You can have it do more complicated stuff, but you think about how a toddler learns basic things very quickly. How can we emulate that with AI? There's a lot to go.
No doubt. To the next question, Anthony, this one's for you. What needs to change to get more companies to implement robotics?
I mean, that's a tough question, and I think it goes back to the last speaker and the willingness to embrace disruption. So I think that there is a large spend that's necessary on the front end to implement robots, but then over time, you see your margins improve, and that margin improvement will lead to increased cash flow, which will allow companies to have more money to plow back into additional robotics. So, I mean, it's a certain mindset, I think, for management to be willing to do things differently. And I'm not sure that outside of seeing your competitors do it and do it profitably, there's necessarily a switch that's going to click. But I mean, I think that, a lot of us flew in from different parts of the world for this event, and 5 to 7 years ago, you would rarely see an iPad or a sort of automated ordering device in an airport, but now they're in every airport, and no matter how big or small the community is. So it just takes that seeing other folks to do it to sort of have additional people embrace it.
Excellent, great answer. Robotics and AI is obviously a sandbox that you guys have been playing in for quite some time, and it might not be the case for the audience, but we do have a lot of investors and family offices, private equity, hedge funds. I guess, what are you guys most excited about in robotics, and where would you invest? Buck, maybe we'll start with you.
I mean, I think there's a lot of different places you can invest. I mean, I think that the real question is like the time horizon of adoption and how fast these robots are actually going to get true scale. Obviously, iRobot's kind of like the poster child for, the immediate application layer. I think where to invest is where the greatest need is, where the greatest labor problem is, and where the labor rates are rising. For me, it's the restaurant space. I voted with my pocketbook. It feels like there's decades of innovations to do there, and a lot of very extremely willing large corporations who are putting their money where their mouth is. I mean, for us, we're raising $15 million, and Chipotle is leading it, which is super weird, right? That's a food company. They make burritos and bowls. What are they doing investing in robotics, right? Well, it's because the future of the restaurant space is going to be automated and is going to be robotic, because there's no way around it. It's never going to be cool again to work in the back of McDonald's. And so they have to innovate or frankly, give up on their dreams of growth.
So I think you hit it on it from the beginning. AI is going to massively drive the adoption of robots. And it's this perspective of not understanding these are exponential technologies. So it is not going to take, 15 years to integrate these systems. They're going to happen actually very rapidly. In the same way that ChatGPT shocked the world, in the next 2 to 5 years as Humanoid and other robot systems roll out, it's going to really drive the innovation. I think the big thing is to get investors to understand there's a difference between the past robots, which were automation, and the future ones, which are autonomous or work also with automation. But the difference is the AI component. The difference is the fact that now these robotic systems can be powered by AI to do multiple tasks, not just one thing over and over again.
Yeah, and do you want me to continue?
I don't know. Buck had something to
Oh,
say.
sorry, go ahead.
Well, I mean, what I think is really cool about your product, Doctor, is that there's like this and I don't know your product as well. I'm just from the outside, so apologies. But like, there's really interesting opportunity for teleoperation bridging to true AI. Where you can like kind of globalize a workforce, and then over time automate that workforce out of the system. I know the food space, so sorry, I'm a little one note here, but like there's two companies that I kind of think about this. There's a company called Coco, which does sidewalk delivery robots, and there's a company called Serve Robotics, which does sidewalk delivery robots also. But Coco is purely a teleoperated machine, so they have robots running around LA, and they're controlled by a group in Colombia, where they pay $2 an hour. So it's a fascinating kind of world of like globalized labor. And then Serve Robotics is really taking the more technology-focused approach. They're kind of a level 4 autonomy system, which means the camera's off when it's on the sidewalk, and a human kind of teleports in to cross the street. And so I love this ability to kind of get the benefits of automation today, and then work on the full automation in the future. So.
Yeah, that's exactly right. In fact, I was in Romania 3 weeks ago with Greg Wilson, the CTO of Microsoft's government branch. And from a Romanian hotel with really bad Wi-Fi, within 1 minute, I had Greg doing complex tasks. And of course, he'd never even saw our system, let alone had any information about it. So the same system that we use for training and getting the raw data, I can employ millions of people in China or Colombia or anywhere else in the US tomorrow. All I need is the robotic systems in there. And actually, I don't even have to make any modifications. I mean, like, our systems are designed to work with systems like yours. I have a lot of people who are doing automation who are like, well, we're still humans in the mix. But of course, our robots can be psychic and communicate exactly with those systems. So the utilities are great. Thanks for mentioning the avatar feature.
Great. Thank you. Steve?
Yeah.
Same question.
So AI for sure is going to help, but even before that, there's an issue that a lot of the companies that I help out with is that they buy robotics, and in this case, like the warehouse automation space, they'll buy millions of dollars of robotics, the hardware, and it'll sit there for a year doing nothing because they don't have the software people that know how to use it, right? And Shopify, for instance, bought 6 River Systems, a mobile robotic system that could help people pick items in warehouse for what, $425 million a couple of years ago. They just divested that entire business for, I don't know the number, I'm guessing pennies on the dollar. They didn't know what to do with it. So you've got to have people like probably all of us, right, and others that help the current environment companies take advantage of what they have. And that's going to help robotics really accelerate, right? Beyond that, vision perception is huge. NVIDIA just released a new product, I saw it today, that's going to help map warehouses and other three-dimensional spaces. Collaborative robots that work with humans safely so they don't kill them, which is important. But it's proven in study after study, right? Robots and humans working together is always more efficient, or mostly more efficient than either working separately. So I'm really excited about where that's going.
Awesome. Thank you. Anthony, how about you?
I think that, when we think about robotics, there's obviously the hardware side and the software side. I think with AI, and there's so much AI out there already, and AI being able to do so many different things, we see the bigger opportunity on the hardware side of things. And so, companies like the doctors here that build things and build different form factors of robots, because I think that there will be certain types of robots that are can do many different things, but then there will be certain applications where you'll want a very specific form factor of a robot that whether it's space or deep underwater, or there's just certain places where you want very specific form factors. And I think that the capability to build things is something that's been underinvested in our economy for a long time. And there's lots of software folks out there that can quickly spin things up. And there's obviously applications where people don't understand the software and can't implement it. And I think that's probably more of a management issue than necessarily the software issue. The software works. But on the hardware side of things, there's huge gaps in hardware that just doesn't exist right now, that people need to put those things together to figure out, how we're going to have these things, automate our lives.
I was going to comment, the plug and play is vital. That's why, from our perspective, you will treat the humanoid as just an employee. And in fact, we don't sell it. It's leased out because most businesses have huge labor budgets, very teeny hardware budgets. And they would prefer actually not to have to take care of it. So our approach is the reason we focus on AI and the robotics is because when I look at a human, the thing that's in their head is the most important thing, not the human form.
I just to talk about the opportunities in hardware. I think the problem of not being a robust enough hardware supply chain is the biggest threat to robotics. Every robotic company that I've ever seen, they build a product and it costs a Ferrari basically, and it's just so wildly expensive because all the components haven't really been costed down, or they're built for factory automation. When I started Misa Robotics, we had to use industrial robotic arms. They're totally inappropriate, way too expensive, and way over-spec'd. And I think that there really needs to be a costing down of the parts and pieces that go into these systems for robotics to really start scaling.
Excellent. We're close on time, so I'm going to end with this, and I'll ask again all of you guys to give an answer. What do you think will be the biggest headache as you scale in your respective categories and industries?
Well, for me, I think it's the cost of engineering, which it's maybe a too personal question, but for me, it's I'm focused on the food space, and the value of a person flipping a burger is only so much. The value of someone welding an airplane is a different story, right? So for me, it's all about the cost of engineering, and I just don't think that today, because I don't think that the prices in the United States for robotic engineers and setting up robotic teams to build these expensive systems is going to be scalable for me. And so I feel a pretty pressing need to lower that cost of engineering by going abroad and setting up advanced R&D shops elsewhere.
So I think there's value of a mix of it, because a super talented person that we have can replace 10 people in Romania. I think it's capital. And getting people to understand that there is a different formula. You always hear, oh, hardware, oh, we don't want to touch that. And yet we are talking on these mics, we're watching TV, we're talking about VR headsets, we get in cars, we get in planes. It's all about the hardware. Your phone wouldn't be useful if it didn't exist, right? So all those apps, what are they going to run on? So for me, it's just getting that disruptive thought across for them to realize AI plus robotics is a whole different thing.
Yeah, a similar thought as what the two of you were just saying. It's really to everybody out there that's investing or thinking about investing in robotics or hardware, is to please just understand that, you know, hardware is hard, right? That's why that expression is out there. You're not going to get typically you're not going to get a 2-year or a 12-month turnaround like a software company with boom, you're going to get 10x or 100x your money. You're going to get a lot of benefit, but I think that the hardest thing is going to be getting to that scale point, is getting investors that realize, oh, now we invested in this MVP, we've got that working, but now we have to invest in the tooling to get castings going and to get all these things going that requires another $1 million or $10 million or whatever. So it's money after money, but it will become very profitable. It's just not the same path as a software investment. And I do think that it is changing, but it's slowly.
I would add to that there are millions of software companies, and 99.999% of them are not going to have $1 trillion potential. These sort of companies do.
Great point.
And maybe just to go down a little bit of a different road, I think it's developing the regulatory framework for robotics, because you know, we talked about scaling earlier. The DJ this morning talked about scaling, and you know, I think as we scale these robots and they go into different applications and they go into different areas, you know, when you have a welder for a plane, for example, he has a certain certification, and it's understood that he's doing things to a certain spec. Now, you can have one robot trained on that, but now if you have a different robot, is that robot necessarily trained? And I think that we sort of know that it is, but that all comes into play when there's accidents. And we've seen that in the autonomous vehicle market right now, in that, you know, it's very easy to have level 1, level 2, but getting to level 3 and level 4 is extremely difficult. And you know, each city in some case, and states, and certainly at the federal level, there's different rules, and that's going to come into play with robots as well. So I think, you know, the ability to scale robots into multiple different applications and still have the safety that we all expect is going to be a challenge going forward.
Awesome. Thank you guys all for your time very much.